welcome to a new year of NEPA Nerds.
Right?
My name is El Becerra. We have
Zach Smith.
Julia Priest. Welcome back to the year 2026. Is this crazy? We're in the new year.
And the great thing is, even though we're starting this new year season, I'm not sure what it's called, but what we're gonna talk about today are endings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Endings.
Let's kick off the beginning with some endings.
Right?
And so we're going to be talking mainly about TV shows. And what's the reasoning behind just focusing on TV shows endings versus movies?
I mean, in my opinion, with TV shows, especially with some of the ones that we're going to be talking about, there is a bigger investment of time on behalf of the viewers. Whereas a movie, you're generally in and out in an hour and a half, 2 hours, and a good ending. Certainly, movies with great endings will stick with you for a while, but a bad ending isn't going to be as devastating as, say, a 7-year-long epic fantasy series that ends with a whimper.
Yes.
Right.
And we'll talk about that, too.
Which we should get out of the way now. There will be spoilers.
Oh, absolutely. Spoiler
throughout
today.
This. I mean, granted, the vast majority of the shows that we have earmarked to talk about are several years old, if not longer by this point. We are going to start talking about at least what I finished, which was Stranger Things, and that's kind of how this all kind of got underway. Was
I'm not quite finished.
Yeah, you're a few episodes away.
I'm just about in the beginning, actually middle of episode 4 of the last season.
Okay.
So episode 4, it's things are starting to get going.
Yeah.
So yeah, and while if for some reason spoilers come in, I will be going like this. I'll be like, oh, okay.
I'll try to.
That's a great point you're making.
I'll try to be as spoiler free as possible.
Okay,
but I mean,
yes.
this is an ending that has been widely talked about by a lot of people. For some people were very unhappy with it. Some people thought it was a decent send off. I'm kind of in the middle. I should know. I enjoyed the series as a whole. It's not one that I see myself going back and rewatching anytime soon. Like, I'm not going to put it in my Star Trek rotation, for example, which I will watch multiple times. But I mean, it ended as well as I thought it could have. Like, it didn't do anything weird to my knowledge. Like, there's some conspiracy theories out there for a few things that I'm not going to go into. But it not bad.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah, you know what sucks? My daughter, for some reason, being 16 years old, she on the internet, and she basically spoiled it for herself.
Oh,
And she
that's always not good.
And I'm like, we have yet to watch it. And and of course, my daughter's teasing me like, haha, I know the ending, Dad. I'm like,
Oh,
great, thanks for teasing me, but
right.
we'll still watch it.
Yeah, and I mean, and that is the risk you run with anything, like movies, video games, of course, television shows. Is that if you're not basically picking it up within maybe 2-3 days of it coming out, then you run a real strong risk of it being ruined for you.
Or even just like in the first 12 hours sometimes. Like sometimes like I have to purposefully avoid using certain social media apps just to not get spoiled on like certain things. Like within the first like 6 hours of something like coming out. Just cause like there's such a discussion about it. One instance where that happened to me, where I just happened to be scrolling Twitter, was for season 5, I want to say, of Miraculous Ladybug. It's a kids show. Your kids probably have seen it, but basically I was scrolling and I see season 5, like basically the storyboards released for the episode, like before it got out. And someone, I guess, leaked it, and I just like I have things to say about that ending, but
if
that's for another show.
You're a bit younger than both of us, but I don't know if you were around when Harry Potter was like super huge. Not to go off into books too much, but I remember the whole Snape kills Dumbledore incident.
Oh yeah,
where people were going up to people standing in line to buy these books that had been out for maybe a day, and they were just shouting out their windows. The
Oh, yeah.
big spoiler to, I
Nope, I
believe
did
it
not know about
was
that.
I think
Deathly
it was.
Hollows.
I
Oh,
think it was a
really?
plot
Oh,
line in actually the.
Half-Blood Prince. Thank you, fact checker Joe.
Thank you, Joey. Appreciate your help.
What was it? What was I gonna say? I remember it actually being like a plot point in I think The Simpsons.
Oh.
At the time, like they were like, because Bart, like I guess for that episode, was really interested in reading books, and it was the Harry Potter series, and I guess a gag character or something screamed out at the ending is like you just see Bart like kind of be all sad. It's like, man, I wanted to read that for myself, and I was just like, you know. And fortunately, like when I was growing up and when that series was coming out, I was way too young to be reading those kinds of books because I was like probably 4 or something.
That's pretty young.
But I do recall watching the films growing up and enjoying the film series, and I kind of knew like going into rewatching them recently is like, yeah, I know what happens, but it's still like it doesn't take away from the experience of it. Like even if you know the ending, like sometimes like even with that information going in, it's still going to be an enjoyable experience.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
I would probably disagree with that a little
Ah!
bit.
It varies.
Because, I mean, like, if you go into The Sixth Sense knowing what the twist is, then...
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no. When it
I think a little bit of it's
Speaking
going to
of
be
movies,
ruined for you.
But like, yeah. For example, even mid shows, like there was a TV show a while ago where there was a bit of a spoiler in the middle of the season, or a bit of a reveal in the middle of the season where I didn't watch it yet. My boss at the time was like, "Oh yeah, and that little girl's a robot." I'm like, "What?"
Oh no!
And so I'm like, "Crap!" And it's still mid-season, so I'm like, "Ah, shoot, okay." So
Yeah, like, spoilers can really ruin stuff if you're not prepared
exactly.
for them. Which is why we're warning all of you that we will be spoiling these years-old shows. So just be prepared. We're going to try to break it up. I think that the most recent one is probably going to be on my list here. I think Game of Thrones might be the most recent because we do talk about shows that do have newer stuff, but we're going to be keeping it to the original run. So when we talk about Dexter, we're going to be talking about the original run of Dexter, not any of the new stuff. But we do have a lot of that stuff to get to, and we will right after this.
Welcome back to NEPA Nerds. I'm Julia, El Becerra, and Zach Smith over there, and we're going to be talking about not necessarily the word good endings, but well done endings, which is not how I like my steak. I like
Satisfying.
my satisfying.
Satisfying
You know, a nice, flavorful ending. I guess it.
For me, it's rare.
That's how you know where
Rare
my head
endings
is at.
are great too because they
I-
tend to be satisfying.
You know I'm hungry when I start using food analogies. And so some of the well done or satisfying endings are ones that you guys may be able to elucidate me on.
Let's talk
Not
about, because
as
I am the dean of
tenured.
denouement.
Yes.
For me, satisfying endings are almost like Shakespearean. You know, he was
Yeah.
all about. He was the dean. He basically tied everything together. And well, let's get nerdy here. Denouement means to untie. So basically to get all the details taken care of, and finally restore the story itself. So yeah, when it comes to endings, to make it satisfying, make sure all your loose ends are tied and bring it all together.
Is that similar to like the concept of setting up something for allowing it to have payoff later?
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the Shakespearean ending right there. And most 19th century novels, like, they have the tendency to be all, you know, let's wrap things up well, so that people will be like, oh, that was a great ending.
Yeah.
So let's take it to TV shows then.
Right.
I mean, for me, I always enjoy an ending that just feels right.
Yeah, that's
Like
right.
where the main problems faced by the characters have been resolved, hopefully in a satisfying way.
That's right.
That character arcs have been resolved, that you can stop watching there and not really have any questions lingering. Some questions are good. I mean, like if as long as we're not getting into like horror territory,
Yeah.
Right.
where
No,
you
that-
don't necessarily always want things to be fully explained. But in terms of regular shows, like I would say that probably one of the most highly regarded endings for any show is Breaking Bad,
Oh yeah.
which
It was a sad one, but still.
it was. I mean,
but satisfying.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it gives you hope. I mean, like I said, we're going to be spoiling some things here. So for those of you who don't know, the story of Breaking Bad is a high school chemistry teacher who gets diagnosed with terminal cancer. And in order to make sure that his family has, the means to go on after he passes, he turns to making meth.
Very pure meth.
And he is very, very good at it. And the whole series revolves around him breaking bad and becoming this drug kingpin,
Scarface.
and how it turns him from a very kind of soft-spoken, well-mannered, nice guy into this, depending on how you look at it, evil drug overlord.
Yeah, he
And-
ends up being the villain at the end, really.
yeah.
I would describe him towards the end more so, not necessarily evil, but more ruthless, and not willing to take any chances. Because throughout the series, he made, from what I understand, made mistakes and was able to make it out of it alive, so that way he won't make those mistakes again. That's at least my understanding of it.
Like his intentions were pure in the beginning to provide for his family. Next thing you know, it just became secondary, maybe lower priority to what he was doing. Like, I'm a mobster now, therefore,
Yeah.
I'm taking care of my family. And then,
Yeah, I mean, he
That
even
kind of-
in discussion that he has with his at the point this conversation happens with his estranged wife, he's somewhat apologizing to her for all the things that he did, and she stops it like, if you tell me one more time that you did it for the family, and he's like, no, I did it because I was good at it, and I liked it,
Yeah.
and
the truth comes out.
It says a lot about his character that he just kind of has this realization that he's really not a good guy anymore.
No.
That he did this because it's something that he felt good at doing.
Yeah.
And the series ends. I'm not going to get into El Camino, which is like a movie that came out detailing Jesse Pinkman after he escaped. Or Better Call Saul, which is also a sequel series, which is a whole other discussion. But it ends with him dying, surrounded by all of this lab equipment that he had used.
His true love.
Yeah, and it's a really just phenomenal ending. Like you're given hope for Jesse as he drives off into the night.
I was about to say, like,
Yeah.
I was like, good job, Jesse. You escaped the prison.
He's been tortured for so long. He finally breaks away from Walt, from this whole life, and he can. I mean, granted, El Camino kind of stretches out his epilogue ending a little bit, but ultimately it does end well for Jesse, more or less. I mean, he's had a real bad time of it leading up to that point, but
Oh yeah.
a good ending for Jesse. Walt dies surrounded by what one could argue is his one true love, which was the cook, which was his science, his chemistry.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. And speaking of satisfying, that was definitely as I said, sad, but you know what? It works. The justified.
Yeah, like you walked away from it, or I guess changed the channel from it, feeling a sense of completion that this story has been told. It's over now. Like I said, there's been a sequel series sort of with Better Call Saul, which is it's more of a prequel / sequel a little bit. But I mean, for Walt's story, for that legacy, like it's done, it's complete, and it doesn't really leave any questions,
Right.
which I thoroughly loved.
Okay, nice.
Those are the type of endings that I would always appreciate. is there any particular series that you could think of that kind of has a nice
There
little
were
bow on top of it?
several, but
Several?
let's just talk about the list we have. Scrubs, one of my favorite shows, actually.
Yeah.
Sadly, I didn't see every episode, which I'm actually going to do so now that it's on.
I think Hulu is bringing
Hulu,
it back
yes,
for a
yes.
new season.
Yeah, so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go through it, see what I
Right.
missed, because it's hilarious.
It's a great show.
It's
And
great.
I do believe I read somewhere that it was one of the most highly accurate medical television shows that were out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of like actual like plausible situations, how doctors react to them and stuff. And granted, it's a comedy, so it's not
Yeah.
totally accurate. But of all of them, like this was one of the top ones.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
Chicago Med might now hold the top spot,
Oh,
but
okay.
I haven't seen that list in a while.
I argue that it was, I believe it was recently The Pit that recently, like, a lot of doctors were saying, like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
like,
Pit is
it's
very
very,
highly regarded.
depressing, The Pit, but it's very much as accurate to,
Okay.
like, what it is to be a doctor. Now, the Scrubs came out in, like, the early to mid 2000s, right? So the medical landscape has changed since from Scrubs to The Pit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
especially the way the
Which-
storytelling
yeah.
Yeah,
is
but
done.
in terms of like, so there was a lot of homework leading up to this, so sadly I was not able to get it done. Describe for us what happens with Scrubs.
Well, when it comes to
Just a small synopsis.
it's essentially a group of doctors at a hospital and living their life and essentially just interacting in a wonderfully comedic way that I wouldn't have thought that. Wow, I mean, even though my mom being a nurse, she told me all the craziness that happens at hospitals, and so when I was watching, that's one of the reasons why I got into Scrubs is because like it's sort of familiar because growing up with a nurse, a lot of that stuff like happens, and interestingly enough, they put such a wonderfully comedic spin to it. I'm like, okay, now I know. I mean, obviously it's not real life,
Oh, yeah.
but at the same time too, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, my mom would talk about this and how they portrayed it in this show, amazing. Yeah, and you know, she never had like a small group of friends like that because because my mom was in different hospitals all the time. But it by bringing these characters back all the time, you
Right.
sort of like not only connect to them,
Yeah.
but you just love in a way hanging out with them by watching them and how funny they were. But going to the ending though, that
So
that was a really well done like tie-in for
So we do have to make a small little, technically, we have to nerd it a little bit.
Oh, dear.
Because Scrubs was 9 seasons long, but
Yeah.
the actual like ending to the series was supposed to happen at the end of season 8.
Yep.
And there's a great episode,
Mm-hmm.
and it deals with JD leaving Sacred Heart, I believe the hospital is called, and he basically has all these little mini flashbacks as he's wont to do
Yep.
of all the times that he's had while at Sacred Heart, and it ends with him basically going down this
Exactly what I was gonna get to.
hallway.
Yep.
leading out the door, and it has like this clip show of like what his future might hold, and it's a really great moment.
And that was when I first heard that song too. Like I love how some of these endings of shows have like really memorable songs with them too.
Absolutely.
We can sort of talk about that too. But like that one, I was like, oh man, that actually like hit me in the feels.
Right.
Like Book of Love, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's great.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was like it was interesting because he was watching what would be like an old school film of something in the past, but it was great that they actually made it to look like, the future.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
And yes, there was a touching little callback with him walking the hall, going out the door.
And you see like patients from season 1, like the first patient who died on him was there. It's such a great way. It just brings everything together, and it's not like we're gonna get into another show that does something similar, but to, I believe, a lesser extent.
Okay.
Where they bring back all these characters that you've known from over the years, and it's like a nice little victory lap for the show.
That's right. That's right.
And had they not done season 9, I would say it's firmly, because season 9 is it's almost a different show. It basically is a different
Yeah,
show because
Yeah.
they moved the show to ABC and they wanted one more season. So that, and they put him in med school where they were teaching kids and stuff, and it's a completely different main cast, and
Yeah.
it didn't work, and it was canceled right after that. So
Oh wow. Okay.
So
I feel like a lot of fans will be like, yeah, season 9 does.
See, I didn't
So
even
season
follow
8's ending to Scrubs was basically like a love letter to everything that happened prior to that point. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, it's basically showing you where the character started and where they have gotten to, and it's just basically outlining 8 years worth of character growth for you.
Yeah. Like
8 years, really.
Yeah.
Good for them.
I mean,
Technically 9, but
to personalize it in the previous
Right.
TV station that I worked for, yes, it was much like that. I was walking out the hall and all these memories of like being in the hall and doing this stuff for that television station. I was like, or that news station.
Right.
That's why I related really well to him. Like, oh wow, that looks familiar.
Right.
Yeah. And so like whatchamacallit, the other one,
Yeah.
the other show.
Other show.
Other show. Friends.
Friends.
Talk about that.
Sadly, that was part of my homework that I did not get.
That's fine. That's fine. No.
But I still have a show like in my back pocket that I was able to rewatch at least a little bit, or like get a little refresher of it, and it was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes, that show I hold in high regard, not only like from its beginning, but also like all the way up to, again, its end. And for those of you who do not know what Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is, it basically follows Edward Elric and his brother Alphonse after they try to resurrect their mother. And it does not go well for either of them. Alphonse basically has his soul put into a giant suit, where Edward, what's the word? He loses his arm and leg. Joke. I'm sure there's a joke in there, but basically, like, and they try to become alchemists, so that way they make sure that that doesn't happen to anyone else ever again. And the series follows them as they try to get what's called a Philosopher's Stone. And there's some hijinks and all that. And basically, like, the ending, it answers a lot of the questions when it comes to like how alchemy works. And it also has like kind of this poetic ending where, spoilers, I mean, the show ended like 2011, I want to say. So
How many seasons was it?
It was, I believe, 3 seasons, so
I
it's
can
not
catch up to
too
it then.
long.
All right. Good. Because I'm trying to
I
catch
could
up
be
with
wrong.
Naruto.
Oh.
So- anyway.
I tried watching that too. I could not.
Yeah.
It was so
Naruto.
slow. Because that's something that we could talk about in the next block.
Oh.
But basically, like, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was able to breathe. Full Metal Alchemist, it received its another anime adaptation previously as just straight up Full Metal Alchemist, but it ended up falling into a trap, which we will discuss in the next block, where it just catches up to the manga too fast. And Brotherhood was started in production like after the manga had ended, so it was allowed to adapt that story without having to worry about like catching up. I love the mangaka. I believe she's writing a new series now, and like the thing about mangaka is that you can tell their art style like just by looking at it, and it's like, yes, this person, please, more.
So how does it end?
From what I recall of the ending is that basically all the sins basically get eradicated like throughout like the final season. So Lust gets burned until there's nothing left of her by what's the captain's
the bad
name?
guys are the
Yes,
okay.
they're all slowly like taken down, like as because the bad guys within them is a Philosopher's Stone, and
okay,
from
alright.
how they describe it, is a Philosopher's Stone is a collection of human souls like compacted into this little thing for quote unquote infinite energy. So
Infinite
there's
power.
lust that goes, envy. They have this really like pathetic ending to them, and pride. Because spoilers again, they're this big general character that we almost kind of looked up to, leading up to discovering that they are a homunculus. That's what they're called, homunculus. They are powered by like a pseudo philosopher's stone within them. They meet their end in like kind of a badass, honorable way. And then finally, it isn't until their creator, Allfather, he's named. He's like all these attributes the homunculus embody. Once when they die, they go back to him. It's kind of like Harry Potter. Now that I'm like is talking about it out loud,
Philosopher's Stone, like the Sorcerer's Stone.
right? And
Okay.
so they all like kind of return to him, and Greed, oddly enough, he has this moment of like self-sacrifice, something that this selfish person wouldn't normally do. And then finally, Alphonse is able to do his anime punch attack against the big bad guy. Everyone wins, blah blah blah, and it's just it's everyone coming together and like encouraging Edward to like carry out what needs to get done.
Okay,
It's so good.
It's satisfying.
It's
yeah,
very much
basically,
satisfying.
Yeah. And the great thing about anime is that like at least we have manga to like
Right.
go along with it.
Yeah,
and stuff.
right.
Yeah, and like for example, real quick with I was gonna start with Friends anyway. Like but yeah, real quick with Friends, satisfying ending.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially since they were going to Central Perk right afterwards.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, especially after they everybody put their keys down and then walked out the door.
right.
Yeah,
Those-
the entire concept of Friends is just this group of 20-somethings that live in New York, and just them kind of growing into later adulthood. And, they get married, they have kids, and it's just them kind of moving on from that phase of their life into more things.
Yep. So the ending is basically the next step.
Yeah,
Right.
they move out of that apartment and into,
Actual adulthood.
Wherever they
yeah.
go next.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's fitting thematically. Like, for the most part, all the characters' arcs are rounded up. Ross and Rachel are still up in the air. But
Yeah.
Right.
it's great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't leave. I mean, granted, everybody wanted them to do a reunion. They sort of did, but not to
Sort of,
Yeah.
sort of, not really. Yeah. So yeah, and yes, there's so
Yes.
many shows with good endings. But
Right.
After the break, we're gonna be talking about shows with not necessarily bad endings, but like
Right.
maybe not necessarily satisfying endings. So
Think-
we'll be back with that.
And welcome back to NEPA Nerds. Today we're talking about endings. And while we're on the subject of a segue from good endings to bad endings, we can talk about one that's depending on who you are, could kind of fall into both.
Questionable ending.
And questionable ending, which
Debatable.
would be the ending to the smash hit Seinfeld, where now Seinfeld wasn't really like a serialized show. Like there was no, like, it had small little plot threads that would persist through multiple episodes, but it wasn't like if you missed out on like 2 episodes, you would be totally lost. Like any episode could really stand on its own.
Oh yeah, it was meant to
It
be
was
that
more
way.
episodic than a serial series.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the ending of that show, now if somehow you've been living under a rock and you know what Seinfeld is, it's basically a group of people who, again, live in New York, and it's kind of the opposite of Friends, really, where it's whereas Friends is a group of people trying to, survive in the city, and they survive on the power of their own friendships. It's almost like Seinfeld is where they're surviving in the city in spite of each other's friendships sometimes.
If you call it
Like
friendship,
it's
too.
if you've ever seen It's Always Sunny, it's kind of like a '90s version of It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, yep, that's right. That's right. That's funny
And
to compare
it's-
it that way. Yeah.
It's based off the comedy of Jerry Seinfeld, and every episode is basically them dealing with what would be for most people a minor annoyance, and it kind of spirals into it's a bigger problem, such as the most famous example, ordering soup from an overbearing soup chef.
No
Or-
soup for you.
Especially because each character has a certain level of neuroticism that, like,
Oh, yeah.
definitely
Oh, yeah.
affects the storyline.
It's hard to argue that any of them are really good people.
Right.
Like I still think that George Costanza is a bit of a sociopath, but
Hey, live in New York. That can happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but the entire series comes to an end when they're visiting. They're traveling somewhere. I don't remember exactly where.
They end up in Massachusetts. That I know.
What was it, Massachusetts? Okay. They had like a layover, I think, in Massachusetts because Kramer got water in his ear and he wouldn't sit down while they're in flight, so they had to do an emergency landing.
Yep.
And they end up in Massachusetts, and so they're just kind of like meandering around waiting for their next flight, and they see, I think, a guy getting mugged, and instead of running over to intervene and help him, they make fun of him and videotape him being mugged and are laughing at him. So then they get arrested for, I think, like a Good Samaritan law.
Yeah.
And basically the entire finale is it's almost, and this is where I can agree with a lot of people who didn't like it. It's basically just one long clip show.
Yep, it is.
And it brings back, it's kind of like the opposite of Scrubs, where Scrubs brought back characters to show like different points in time in these characters' lives. What Seinfeld does is it brings back all these characters from different points in times where they were just kind of bad people.
Oh.
Such as getting a man kicked out of his business, or popping the balloon of a immune compromised person.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Like,
I think I remember that. That's,
Oh no.
yeah.
And
Or the new stuff for you guy.
Oh, yeah, of course, that. Soup. Yes. So, like, yeah, the whole trial scene, yeah, exactly. The whole show about being on trial and everything. And then, of course, I mean, not that I really followed the show, but when I found out that it ended the way it ended, I'm like, wait, as they pull out from the jail scene, the cell, I'm like,
Yeah.
no way. Really? This is how all these years end with them in jail? Wow. That's so weird. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I like that. No. It was unsatisfying.
Yeah.
It's I can certainly see why people, I mean, I didn't like the way it was set up. Like I thought them being in jail
It was funny. But
was funny, and in a way I thought it was fitting, but like just the way they did it where it was just one long clip show, I didn't care for that too much.
No.
like the cheap and easy way out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a show about nothing, so might as well go that way.
I do think I would say probably an even bigger letdown for people, of course, is Game of Thrones.
Oh yes.
And I will let you.
Oh, well, yeah. With Game of Thrones, interestingly enough, I'm not much of a fantasy person, but what got me into Game of Thrones was actually the finale where the Ice King was killed. That got me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to go back and watch this stuff.
Right.
And so because to me that was a great finale. That was like the music and everything. Once again, going back to the music, but everything was great about it. And like, oh my gosh! And this little thing killed the main villain. What?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, this is awesome. All right, especially since she did it with a knife, and me, I'm a knife guy, so like, there you go. And then went back and to watch it. I'm like, okay, I can get into this, because the extent of my fantasy was Lord of the Rings, and some really basic stuff like C.S. Lewis stuff. But like, yeah, the ending very unsatisfying.
And
Right.
Because after the death of of,
Yeah.
what do you call it? Daenerys.
What? Again, I did not get my homework done. What?
Big Yule for you.
I-
You unprepared.
No shows for you. Describe the ending of Game of Thrones.
so it's
Not
more.
cool.
it's like a
if it can be
season-long
described.
thing. I mean, so
If you call it a season, it was like
it was
Yeah.
definitely. I think it was only like 4 or 5 episodes.
not many episodes at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, the show had been on like a downward trend for some people will say longer, but for me, it was the last 2 seasons
Okay.
that really just showed that the showrunners were. I mean, they had run out of the source material. Of course, it was based on A Song of Fire and Ice from George R. R. Martin, and obviously the books weren't done. I mean, they're still not done, but
That's the crazy part. I'm like, what?
yeah, like
Yeah.
he was still working on the book that he's working on now when the show first started. It's been that long. Anyway, they ran out of source material, but George R. R. Martin gave them an outline saying these are the things that are going to happen. And once they ran out of that source material, you just saw plot lines being kind of cut down, character arcs, a lot of character assassinations happening, stuff happening just for reasons. People would be in one part of the world in one scene, and then a little bit later they're on the complete opposite end of the world.
That's
and
weird.
Yeah.
There was no like you would have entire episodes where people are just traveling, and you had a lot of great character building moments, like Arya with the Hound. Like they're going from King's Landing to the Vale, I think, for like the better part of a season. And then like people were just making that trip in the course of one episode, and
Right.
so you could just tell that they were just like, okay, we want to get this done because we want Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think that was widely believed to be the issue at play. Was they had gotten promised I think it was a movie, maybe they were going to direct one of the movies, or maybe a mini series or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Oh.
Something like that, yeah.
And the kicker is the ending of Game of Thrones was so poorly received that Disney was like, no.
Wonderful
But-
irony.
But
Right.
basically, the show ends with Bran Stark, the kid from the beginning who gets pushed out, and he's for lack of a better term, he's handicapped for the entirety of the show, and I think he's absent for like at least a season or 2, where he's just not there, and he gets crowned king. Cersei, who's the big bad throughout the vast majority of the show, they literally drop a castle on her. It's a very, very unfulfilling death. Like people wanted her to suffer because she is just. I do think you would really enjoy the show overall if you did want to pick it up. But she is so evil that they just give her such an unsatisfying death, and a character who had such great character arcs, Jaime Lannister, her twin brother, and love her. We'll get into that. Also
What's the
dies
facts of the story?
with
Right.
her, and it's very unsatisfying. There's supposed to be this climactic battle between the Hound and the Mountain, and it's kind of and
Oh, yeah,
it's
that's
just
right.
so like they cut so many corners, and it's so blatantly obvious. Like I don't know how you felt about it, but like for me, it was just everything that led up to it. Like I was okay with Bran being crowned king, but the way in which everything else that led up to it happened, I was like,
Yeah, it wasn't my
Right.
fan. Yeah, especially for somebody who would always hear about Game of Thrones, but just never watched it until the just before the final season.
Right.
When I like tried to catch up as much as possible before the season started, the final season started, and yeah, when I was watching, I'm like, is this, are these the same writers? I'm
Right.
like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And finally the very final episode, I'm like, wait, is this the final episode already? What?
Right.
What's going on? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely one of those things where, and I was able to tell, you know when you watch a TV show and you sort of get when the penultimate episode happens, when things start building up. I seriously thought it was just the penultimate episode. Next thing you know, I'm like, oh, that's the end. That's not cool.
No.
I'm like, oh crap.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bran is king. They put Arya on a boat, and
Yep.
and Sansa flits off to the north. John goes to the wall, and it's like, okay,
Okay, yeah, exactly.
That's
It's
it.
like, really?
we're
Yeah.
done. Disney money, please.
Right.
Yeah.
And the worst part is that they didn't even get what they were trying for
No,
from
no,
how
they
you
did not.
described, which
Yeah. Especially, I was so excited after that finale.
Right.
The previous season, I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing.
That was, I think,
Right.
the second episode of the season, and it was built up. And that was another reason why people were so angry, was because this undead threat had been literally built up over the course of the entire show.
Yep.
right.
Like I was expecting that to be the final episode. I thought all the throne stuff would be kind of resolved before that, and the last episode or two would be them focusing on this massive undead threat. No, that's kind of an episode.
So,
It's fine.
and
Oh,
that's
gosh.
that kind of teases as to what I described previously in the previous block, as I call it, where I lightly touched upon what is coined as anime only endings, and this is prevalent in the anime world too, where to summarize very quickly, like an anime starts production like as a manga is going on. Biggest example of this is One Piece, which recently celebrated its first season being completed. Yay! And they're finally switching to a seasonal format to allow for production teams to get a better time frame. But Naruto also falls into this trap. And I cannot remember for the life of me what show described it best, but they're two parallel lines where they're both like running together. And anime, oddly enough, catches up very quickly to the manga. So to kind of buy time for the manga or the mangaka to write the stories, the anime kind of has to do a little side thing. And sadly, the show that I had in mind, speaking of, excuse me, is Soul Eater. That kind of fell into that trap of like diverging from the manga, which I think ended in 2014, but the show was in, I think, 2009. And it had its own anime ending where like Maka ends up punching Ashura, like the embodiment of evil, with the power of friendship or something.
Power of friendship.
And it doesn't wrap up a lot of plot points because like Krona is still like trying to find themselves, and like this kid or Death the Kid is still like obsessive with symmetry and all that, and like how like there's a lot of plot points that the early manga set up that were not able to be paid off until like the manga was able to continue.
What I notice about a lot of anime, there's the tendency for them to not really have a decent ending.
Yeah.
If an ending at all.
Yeah,
right?
It generally is, in a sense, like a setup for something else.
Oh yeah, because the annoying thing is that a lot of a manga get anime adaptations, but then they stop at like season 1 or 2, and it is so infuriating because they're so good. Biggest example I can think of is Snow White with the red hair. I hope to talk about that on Valentine's Day. But basically, like, it's a romance series, and like the manga continued on, but for some reason the anime production just did not continue after season 2. And I'm just sitting here, it's like, I want more. Give me more. You know? And so, like, that's kind of the big thing that sadly us anime fans, and I see that we are, I guess, anime fans are relating to, is that we get into a series and sadly it just stops.
But like even though we know that One Punch Man is coming back, but or at least still, like, I'd rather. I'll be
Season
talk about
3.
some other time.
That's
another
hole we can go
discussion.
down to.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Recently, I think, that's another show for another time. But My Hero Academia too. That recently ended. So that one day I'd like to speak on that one.
I'm actually interested to watch that now.
Yes.
My Hero Academia.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, let's talk about controversial like endings.
Oh yeah.
The Sopranos.
Ah yes.
The Sopranos. So, yeah.
Very.
Let's just let's talk
Now,
about it.
I'm going to fully acknowledge that I have not watched Sopranos thoroughly all the way through, but I think the ending is something that, even if you haven't seen it, you've heard of it.
Oh yeah.
It's Tony Soprano going to a diner to have dinner with his family, and So I'm gonna preface this by saying I actually like how it ended.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Now again, I have to say
Initially, I didn't, but yeah.
I've seen a lot of it, but I wasn't like I gotta catch every single episode. But like I'd watched
Yeah.
a good chunk of every season. So the finale is Tony Soprano going to have dinner with his family, and he comes into the diner. He meets his wife there, and like the family's just kind of arriving one by one, and like you can kind of feel this tension because "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey is playing in the background.
It's good music.
Yeah.
And there's not playing in the background, and you see Tony look up, and then smash cut to black,
right.
and that's how the series ends.
Which for me, I was like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what?
Which it's a lot of people hate it. So I like it because it gives you that sense that for the rest of Tony's life, he's going to be paranoid. He's going to have terrible anxiety. He never knows if somebody's going to come for him, for somebody in his family. He's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life. And who knows? Maybe he did die right in that moment. Maybe somebody opened the door, shot him, and then the cut to black is literally just him being shot in the head.
Oh.
That's what.
Well, that's
what I take it
graphic.
as. Later on, though, like when I saw it, I was like, I mean, I heard about it already, but like I saw it, I'm like, yeah, that's not really satisfying.
No.
And then later on, when I heard about that possibility of what that means, I'm like, makes sense. To which I'm like, okay, I'll accept how it was really well done. I'm good with that. So,
I mean, it's endings like that aren't going to really please everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And no ending really is going to please everybody. Like there's like I said, I liked the Sopranos ending. I know a lot of people didn't, and I think it's just art is subjective.
Oh, yeah.
And
Right.
I think in cases that are not like Game of Thrones, like it's hard to defend Game of Thrones because you can see where the corners were cut.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And the coffee mugs were left unsaid.
Yes. With Sopranos, though, like I never got the indication that they were being lazy, and I think for me that he was just trying to kind of get people to think a little bit more about what Tony's headspace would be.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
great storytelling.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it that also the actor died shortly after that?
James Gandolfini, I don't think it was shortly after, but
he does
Yeah.
pass.
He died,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is
So.
sad. So yeah.
R.I.P. So
This
yeah.
has been
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's once again so many. Like,
Yeah.
So many.
And, like, we could dedicate an episode. We could dedicate 3 episods to Game of Thrones.
Oh, my
if
word.
we
Oh,
wanted to.
absolutely.
we will have a Game of Thrones episode.
I do think we need to do that.
Yeah. So
But yeah, we will kind of wrap things up in a minute, and we'll be right back.
hey there, Vaccinated Nerds. And
Welcome back.
yeah, we were talking about endings, and it's a great way to start off the year is talking about endings. And yeah, and it's once again there are just so many different kinds of storylines with different kinds of endings. Like for example, you did mention earlier about like horror endings. It is interesting. Like
Right.
much like the anime endings, there's that there's something else gonna come afterwards. Like a lot of classic horror story endings has like maybe a little bit of the monster or a little bit of something.
The hand coming
The
out.
hand,
of
yeah,
the,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's a classic one, like the hand coming out of the grave, and just like, oh, there's going to be more story out there,
no.
possibly, but you never know. Yeah,
More scares.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh my
famously,
gosh.
with
Oh, yeah.
the woman being pulled into the door.
oh gosh, yes.
Although, and now it looks hilarious.
Oh, but
but-
still,
Yeah.
it's still.
Or Krampus, where they end up like in the snowball. Yeah.
Which, speaking of which, goes to, and I'd written it down. There was a soap opera from I want to say like the 70s, maybe 80s, called Saint Elsewhere.
Oh.
And
Oh my gosh.
it's about
80s. Yep.
Yep, it's about a a hospital. It's a hospital soap opera, as they're wont to do. But
As we
famously,
do.
the final episode turns out the entire series was all in the mind of, I believe, an autistic child.
Boy, yep.
And
Aw.
the hospital itself was in a snow globe, like you mentioned, and he's just sitting there shaking it, and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's going on in that head of his."
You
No,
find out the
yeah.
doctor was an actual like just a carpenter or a construction worker. It's just like, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Wizard of Oz.
From my generation,
Right.
From my generation, I was like, well, because in the '80s I was a kid. I didn't necessarily watch live action stuff like that, but later on was when I found out, oh, that's a weird ending. That's a crazy ending, and other crazy endings like dream sequence endings.
Oh,
that's
those are-
crazy too.
Those are always good in theory, like the Adventure Time theory that it was all like a dream in Finn's head, and that the dog was actually just like laying beside him in the bed,
Oh,
or
man.
the hospital bed. But
Really?
like
Oh, wow.
once when those endings are actually executed, they're not as good as people like to think.
It all depends on the execution,
Right.
like you were saying before. A game I may have mentioned before, Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
of course.
I may have mentioned it in the past. Has a very
It may have
similar
won
ending
many
to that.
awards.
Whereas it turns out everything that's been taking place happened inside of a painting.
Yes,
So it's
that's
not
right.
Yeah.
it's not quite that it was a dream, but none of what you're seeing is
Yeah,
technically
that
real.
was
But it's
right.
all about the character building and stuff. So if you have good characters and good writing, you can get away with it with endings like that.
Yeah, just like Super Mario Brothers 2. When I was a kid playing that game, I was like, "What? It's been a dream all this time." I should have figured it out like in the beginning of the story was
Right.
he went to sleep. Yeah. So, but you know what? The absolute biggest letdown of all time.